last thing we're going to do is show you how to add some basic materials to your sword. To do that, we're going to go into viewport shading. This isn't true rendering, but is a partial rendering so that you can see the colors of the objects that you want to create. Now, to create a color on object, select the object, then you have to open up the material properties panel, and then you can, it'll have a material that is, if it doesn't have a material that's already up, you click New Material. This panel shows a whole bunch of stuff that you can use to create unique materials. We're only going to worry about a few basic things. The blade of a sword is very metallic, so we're going to turn metallic all the way up. Also, we don't want a very rough sword. It's going to be very shiny, so we're going to bring the roughness down. Now you notice how the sword appears to have all these edges, and that doesn't look very good. We want to shade it without those edges. So to do that, we're going to go to Object and Shade Smooth. Now it doesn't appear to have those edges. However, it can be a little bit bumpy. To fix that, you can just add in more topology. To do that, we're going to create something new. It's called a modifier. To do it, you go to the modifier properties, and under modifier, you can click the kind of modifier you want. In this case, we want a subdivision surface, which kind of smooths everything out by adding more topology and then smoothing along those axes. Now, that does work, but it smoothed it too much at the bottom. To fix it, we're going to tab back into edit mode and grab another edge loop and bring it down. And that creates a nice smoothish surface. Now the edges aren't quite sharp enough for what I like, so I'm going to add an additional edge to make those edges a little bit sharper. And then tab out. That creates a nice sharp looking sword. Now if you want to turn off this panel in the viewport, you can just click the display button on or off. Now to add more colors, we're going to go back into the properties panel, and we're going to add a color for the crossguard. It's going to be another metal color, but this time we're going to change what kind of metal color it is. Perhaps it's a copper metal color. In that case, it's probably more of an orange, gold, yellow, orangish color. And we're going to turn down the roughness, but not all the way. Now we probably want the pummel to be the same color. To do that, you select the pummel, go over to this button that is the Browse Materials button, and then you can select a material that you want. In this case, we have the sword material, and we have the copper material as well as the basic material. We're going to choose copper. We want probably one more color for the crossguard, and the crossguard is probably made of leather or rubber. So it's going to be a smooth shape, but kind of rough. We're going to create and shade it smooth then, and we're going to add a new material. And we're going to make the color of that material kind of the leathery color. And we want to make sure that it's darker. You can bring this down to make it kind of a dark brown color. And then we're going to bring up the roughness a little bit. Now you notice this pummel is all weirdly shaded. To fix that, you go to Shade Smooth. And boom, it's shaded smooth. Now you can shade smooth the crossguard, or you can leave it the way it is right now. Now, last thing I'm going to show you how to do is how to actually render an image of this sword. You notice we have a camera here, but the camera is way too close and you wouldn't be able to see anything. If you want to see what the sword will look like when it's rendered, go into the viewport shading, And right now it's very dark because there's not a very strong light source. You can increase this and you'll get a brighter light source. But there's still not, the environment doesn't look the greatest because there's not an environment around you that is giving you all sorts of interesting lighting. The background is just this dark gray. We want to make that a little bit more interesting. To do that, you're going to bring up the shader editor and then go to world. Now I'm going to create kind of a clouds background to go with this environment. To do that, I'm going to introduce you to the node editor. This is the node editor. It allows you to create colors which plug into what the background of an object would look like. In this case, it's the whole background of your scene. We're going to add in a noise texture which can help us make cloud-like shapes. To do that, go to the search bar and then click noise. And make sure you click noise texture, not white noise. Then we're going to plug the color into the background, into the color output. Now you notice it immediately fills the room with this kind of weird colory background. That's not quite what we want. We want it to be black and white. To fix that, we're going to create a color ramp and plop it in there. This turns everything black and white, but it's still not quite the way we want it. We want some areas with clouds and some without clouds. Now to do that, we're going to make this material, wherever the black is, will have no clouds, and wherever the white is, have clouds. And we're going to make these clouds have more detail. To do that, change the detail level. Now we want not just these clouds, we want a blue sky background in between. So we're going to add in a mix RGB node and then plug it in right in between those. Now instead of it being a color, we're going to move it into the factor. Now this color will be represented wherever there's black. This color will be represented wherever there's white. We're going to change this one to kind of a nice sky blue color. You'll notice this is a little bit too blurred out. We can bring those back a little bit and make it a little bit sharper contrast there. That creates a nice cloudy background for our image, and it didn't require any textures, although you can get your own textures of a cloudy background and plug them in here. Now if we want to render this object, perhaps you want this to take an image from this perspective, wherever you're looking at from the viewport right now. To do that, to make an image like this, you can just position the camera wherever you're first position your viewport, then go over to view, go over to align view and align active camera to view. Now you'll notice the camera can't even see the sword because, well, the sword's too far away. Now you might think you have to get closer with the camera to fix that, but actually you can just go to the camera settings and then do increase the clip end, and boom, the sword reappears. And you can render it like this. However, there's one more thing I wanted to add to this to make it look even a little bit cooler. To do that, we're going to go back, we're going to go into the properties panel again, and we're going to mess with something called emission. We want this sword to kind of be a fantasy glowy sword. To do that, we're going to bring this up, the color for the emission up, and we're going to give it a glowy blue color. and then we're going to increase the strength. And you still can't see it very well, but in Eevee you can introduce something called bloom, which creates kind of this radiated light. And then you can mess with the color and the strength. And to make it appear better, we're going to turn the strength down on the environment a little bit. And that will give you a nice sword look. Now, if you want to see where your camera is seeing, you can click this button again. Let's position the camera down here. And so to do that, you go View, Align Active Camera to View. Now, if the camera's a little bit too far back, to fix that, you can either bring the camera back or you can zoom out back on the camera lens. And we don't really need this light, but we're going to leave it because I don't want to get rid of it for the scene. So to render this image, you have to figure out where you want to save the image to. Do that, go over to this and go over to the output property, and this folder shows you where where the image is going to be saved, and this is the format of the image. If you want to change the format, you can go here. I'm going to leave it where it is right now, but if you want to change where you want your image saved to, you just click this folder and pick where you want it to be saved. Now to render it, you can go to the render and then render image. And this will pull up a rendering screen, and it will render the image. Now if you want to save it in additional locations, you can click image and then save. Well, that's it for this basic tutorial on creating a sword in Blender. I hope you enjoyed it.